The atmosphere in Five Nights at Freddy's games is what I personally feel actually makes the games scary. Not really the character designs, of course, not the jump scares, but the way the game's world is built is truly what I think defines a game as scary. There have been plenty of amazing FNAF games in the past with wonderful atmospheres. Think Banshee, FNAF Reanimated, Remnants of Tubbyland, and several more. But today, we're going to be talking about a game I don't hear mentioned all too often around the internet. I personally believe that this very FNAF game we'll be talking about today is hands down the creepiest, most unsettling, and most disgusting FNAF game I have ever played. So strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of Bloody Nights with Froggies. Before we jump into night one, we already have some stuff to talk about. That being the pre-night one cutscene, since this game decides to be a visual novel from time to time, which I do actually like. We play as this fat bastard. The game told us our name, but I can't for the fuck of me actually remember what it is. During this cutscene, we talk to a butler-looking dude named Lorenzi. For a bit of backstory, we want money because we have 2 kids and a wife. Literally couldn't be me, by the way. There's this whole weird opening cutscene that plays when you first open the game, talking about darkness, curiosity, and temptation. Like some weird force that's pulling us into this job. Get better, bro. One thing I've had to get way better at with YouTube is tracking where my money is actually going. Between editing, thumbnails, voice work, and regular monthly expenses, it's easy to feel like you know your budget until everything is spread out across different accounts and charges. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Rocket Money, baby! Rocket Money helps me get a clearer bird's eye view of my finances in one place, so I'm not constantly bouncing around trying to figure out what I spent, where I spent it, and what areas I should probably pay more attention to. And I happen to spend a lot of money in a bunch of different places, and it's just a massive headache trying to figure it all out by myself. It can also automatically track subscriptions in one list, which is huge if you've ever signed up for something, told yourself you'd cancel it later, and then completely forgot. And when there's a subscription you don't need anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel it in a couple taps. I also like the spending insights because they make it easier to spot the categories that are quietly adding up over time. I know personally for me, I have a mountain of subscriptions for different streaming services, and as much as you hear everyone say it, I was quite literally paying for Crunchyroll twice every month somehow. Not even sure how that's possible. Rocket Money is free to download, with some features free and others requiring premium. Go to rocketmoney.com/dxtrwhite, scan the QR code on screen, or click the link in my description. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. Once Lorenzi learns about us having kids, we can see him get visibly shocked, and he almost seems like he tries to talk us out of doing this job, which is pretty weird. Since we're on the property of $1 million mansion, there is always worries of thieves and vandals, so he tries to make it seem like that's what we should be scared of, but little do we know that what's in store for us is actually about to be a lot worse. There's so much fucking talking during this section. Obviously, it is some exposition after all. Lorenzi asks us why we chose to take this job, and like, fucking money? You idiot. Of course it's money, bro. Why else do people get jobs? It's not because I want to be a part of your family or whatever you'll try to say our coworkers are. Miss me with that shit, bro. Anyways, Lorenzi says that he has to go, and we learn that our office isn't an office at all, and instead we're dropped into some busted up shed that probably has demon spiders living inside of it, and that's where we have to stay for 6 hours, so this is about to be awful. Jumping inside of the shed, we learn about the threats we're about to go up against on some crayon and papyrus drawing. But of course, it wouldn't be fun if I just showed you these, plus I need some shit to talk about to pad for runtime since I've been told this game isn't that long. Loading into the shed, we get to learn about the tools at our disposal. Hooray! Everybody's favorite part of the videos. To start, we have our camera system. Of course, very simple. It doesn't do anything special and is just a camera system. There are 2 entrances to our shed, the window in front of us and the chimney to the shed because I guess sheds need a chimney for some reason. Each of these entrances has a door. As I'm sure you could have guessed, we can't keep them closed for the entire night, which just makes no sense and adds to my ever-growing list of reasons to pluck all of my fingernails and toenails off. The final tool we we should talk about is the lantern on top of our ceiling. This is obviously our only source of light, and it's very limited on oil, so you shouldn't keep it on for very long. This lantern is going to play a huge role for most of the characters in this game, so I'll talk more about it as we learn about the threats this night introduces. We also have one other tool to talk about because I'm a filthy, disgusting liar. This anal tool. Whoops, autocorrect, my bad. This final tool we have to mention is our lighter that Lorenzi gave us. We obviously get the ability to turn the lantern off, so we'll need to use the lighter to be able to turn it back on. However, something really fun about this lighter is the fact that when you click it, it doesn't always ignite right away, and it's actually completely RNG how much you'll have to spam click in order for the lighter to turn on. And even after you manage to get the lighter lit up, the hitbox on this fucking lantern is the most nipple-ripping thing I've ever seen. For some reason, the hitbox for this lantern is significantly smaller than the actual lantern, and if it's not the hitbox that's fucking me up here, then that just means that after you get the lighter lit, there's a cooldown time for you to be able to light the lantern. Out of all things to make frustrating in your game, why the hell did you have to pick the most useful tool to do it to? Probably because God hates me. Anyways, now we can start talking about the two threats this night introduces. Not too many threats, which I appreciate. Not too few enemies that it feels boring, but not so many that it feels like a clusterfuck. The last sigh. The first threat I want to talk about is the Dark. I'm pretty sure that's not the actual name of this character, but the game also just doesn't tell you its name. The Dark is a teddy bear that sits under the table in a shed right in front of you. The Dark is very scared of the light, which is weird because I've always heard that opposites attract, so I guess that was just a lie. If your lantern is off, Dark will slowly creep his way out from under your desk to try to give you a little kiss. Thankfully, before he attacks you, he makes a very noticeable sound cue. What the fuck was that noise?
Here's Shaw. Yep, that was him. Check your office.
Okay, so this means you don't have to constantly be watching for him, which is very nice, especially on later nights when this game gets really ass. Once you see his eyes under the table, you've got about 5 seconds to fumble with your lighter and relight the lantern. Do that in time and the Dark will crawl back into the hellhole from which it came. The second threat introduced on this night is surprisingly the main antagonist of the entire game, which I always think is pretty cool when I see it. This character is obviously Froggy. His goal is to attack you via your window or your chimney. You can track him through the various cameras he goes through, and while most of the cameras don't matter, I do think it's pretty fun to see him do the cameras since it's not just a still image and he does have animations. So you can watch him twerk next to the fountain if you'd really like that. The camera that really matters for Froggy is camera 5, which as you can tell by looking at it is placed right outside of our shed, which is really useful, but let's just put ourselves into the shoes of our character for a second. Could you imagine how terrifying it would be checking the cameras and seeing some fucking monster trying to slowly creep their way into the building that you are in? Think about how actually mortifying that would be. I'd probably kill myself on the spot on God. Anyways, once Froggy gets to your porch, he will pick one of two paths, the window or the chimney. It'll be pretty obvious when he's going for the chimney since he'll start crawling up the building, which is completely terrifying. And then if you don't see him doing that, then you know he's heading to your window. Now, this is where we have to defend ourselves from him, which I can promise you is not the way you're thinking and actually has nothing to do with the doors at all. So, Froggy is blind, like really badly. So if our lantern isn't on when he arrives, he won't be able to see us and will quickly leave. So right away, we already have a really good synergy between the only two characters in the night. Dark attacks when the light is off, and Froggy pounces if the light is on. Such perfect synergy, it's actually really nice. However, I'm sure a very specific question is crossing your mind right about now. What happens if both Froggy and Dark attack at the same time? Well, thankfully, this developer isn't Satan, and if Froggy and Dark attack at the same time, Dark will wait until Froggy leaves before continuing his attack. This just makes me smile from ear to ear. Overall, this night is a pretty good introduction to the hell we're about to go through. So I guess there's nothing else to do except move on to night 2. Psych fucking moron! We still have a post-night cutscene to talk about. We meet back up with Lorenzi, and he says that he thought he heard something moving around in the garden happen over the night and asks us if we saw anything. We start talking to ourselves about how suspicious everything going on is, and instead of voicing his concerns, we do what every retard in a horror situation does and lie and say we didn't see anything. Lorenzi seems to be able to tell we're lying and tries to soft launch us quitting again. But if we're anything, it's persistent. So we go home to catch some Z's and then return for our second night of work. Moving on to night 2, we have one new threat to talk about, and it's with this threat where it becomes obvious how hard this game is going to become. We just got a tiny little hint this time around. The new character introduced on this night is called Kitty, and as I'm sure you could have probably guessed, this character is in fact a kitty. I know. Oh, that cat is fucking disgusting.
Oh, did you see it?
Yeah, like what the fuck is that, right? Groundbreaking name scheme. Kitty works in the exact same way as Froggy, except with an opposite way of dealing with her. Oh yeah, I'm sure you can already guess what this is about to mean for us. Kitty will wander around the cameras until reaching camera 5. Oh, ew, what the fuck? Why does the cat look like that? She will then switch phases in this camera like Froggy to show her either going for the window or the chimney. The only difference Kitty has from Froggy is that by the time she gets to your window or chimney, your lantern needs to be on. Since cats don't see very well in the light, which is just not true. I know they see better in the dark, but it's not like they're blind during the day, but sure, we'll roll with it, I guess. All right, let's stop stalling and bring up the very glaring problem that Kitty brings up, and that is her synergy with Froggy. Since both Froggy and Kitty will attack together very often, almost every single time they attack, honestly, and that scares me because this is where the game starts to actually get stressful. They will obviously always attack opposite areas, and the way they work makes dealing with them at the same time very stressful. Since for Froggy, by the time he enters, your lantern already has to be off. You can't turn it off in response to him showing up or he will kill you. The same goes for Kitty, but vice versa. By the time Kitty shows up at your shed, your lantern light needs to be on. You cannot turn it on in response to seeing her or she will kill you. So, if they attack at the same time and require two completely different game states, how is this even going to be possible? Well, that's where the doors come into play and stalling characters. So let's start by talking about what exactly happens when you stall a character. Let's say Froggy shows up at your window and you decide to stall him by holding the door closed. He will start by banging on it for a few seconds before leaving. However, instead of resetting like he would if you dealt with him the way you're supposed to, he will instead just move back to camera 5 and will very shortly attack again. So, Froggy and Kitty attack at the same time. The way you have to go about dealing with them is pretty simple, but again, will get your nerves to shoot through the fucking roof. Let's say for this example, Kitty is going through the chimney and Froggy is going through the window. What you should do is turn the lantern on and hold the window door closed. Both Kitty and Froggy will show up at the same time. Kitty will be dealt with since you turned the lantern on, and Froggy will get pissed and move back to camera 5, wherein you can then turn the lantern back off and wait for him to attack again and deal with him as normal. And of course, you could do the exact opposite strategy and stall Kitty instead. Stalling the same character too many times will result in them eventually breaking the door down instead of actually being stalled. So it's probably in your best interest to alternate which character you stall so you don't get yourself rim jobbed on the job. Bars. Overall, this night isn't that hard, as Froggy doesn't activate until like halfway through the night so that you can learn Kitty, and then from there you'll really only have to deal with a double attack twice, maybe 3 times if you're unlucky. And of course, Dark is much more aggressive on this night as well, but this really shouldn't be too bad. That is, not yet. After completing the night, we get another post-night cutscene between our character, whose name has been confirmed to be Thomas, which makes sense because he is the size of a locomotive. Lorenzi asks us how the night went, and this time Thomas isn't a fucking moron and actually tells him what we saw. That being a toy cat crawling through his window, as well as other toys trying to attack him. Lorenzi plays stupid and tries to shift the conversation before eventually just leaving. Thomas is obviously pissed that they didn't tell him this would be happening, yet for some reason he still decides to continue coming back. Like, bro, I get it, money is tight, but I don't know if this is worth it. Oh yeah, and by the way, the actual reason we keep coming back is told to us after each cutscene. Curiosity tempts us into darkness. And you know what they say, Curiosity killed the cat type shit. God damn! I'm feeling like a new age Dr. Seuss right now. Somebody stop me. Anybody. Somebody hold me back. I'm unstoppable. Anyways, let's move on to night 3 before I give all the huzz sodden panties. All right, well, here we are, night 3. And it's on this night where we really start to notice this game's difficulty, because the character this night introduces is truly worse than stubbing your toe in the middle of the night on the coffee table. You know, usually I like to think of myself as a pretty tough guy, generally speaking, but when it comes to getting up in the middle of the night, it's just over for me. I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night once, busted my pinky toe on the island in my kitchen. I was down for 47 minutes. I couldn't even see my toe, but I just knew my toe was bent 90 degrees. Bleeding for sure. I could feel it. It was blood gushing. It's like a person died in my kitchen. That's what it feels like every time. But then I take a good look at my toe in the light and it's like nothing ever happened to it. There's truly nothing in the world that will make you feel like more of a bitch than that exact experience. Anyways, back to talking about the silly bear game with no bear present. The new threat introduced on this night is called Crocco, and he resembles that stupid crocodile game that people always add like thumbtacks or razor blades to because they're retarded. Anyways, this guy is hands down the worst character we've seen so far in this game. So I'm betting you can take a guess exactly what it is he does. Let's play a quick game, everybody. Multiple choice time. Multiple choice time. Is Crocco A find them on the camera character, B, an eye slot, C, a music box mechanic, or D, a nuisance character? I'll give you a little time to think about this one since it is a pretty tough one. All right, that's enough time. If you answered E, all of the above, then you'd be completely fucking right. God damn it. Because he is literally all 4 of those things at the same fucking time. Please, for the love of God, just kill me. End it. End it. Fuck. Crocco will randomly move around the cameras and can go to any of them at any time. He will never try to attack your shed, so you don't have to worry about that. However, not only is he a character you constantly have to find on the camera, but he also runs on batteries and is a fucking music box. A music box that randomly wanders around the cameras. Is there any way my life could get any worse? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. How so? Great question. Crocco does not work the same way a normal music box mechanic works. No, they somehow managed to make it even worse for us. You cannot click and hold the music box button. You have to click to wind up a little bit at a time, except you can't even spam click because after each click, there's a solid 2-second cooldown before you can click it again. And on top of that, his meter also decreases very quickly. So, let's imagine a fun little scenario together, shall we? Let's imagine that both Froggy and Kitty enter camera 5 at the same time. So you know you have to divert all of your attention to them. After stalling one, dealing with the other, and then dealing with the stalled character. And probably have to deal with the headache of the dark at least once throughout this process. After you finally finish dealing with them, Crocco will probably have his battery drained past half. And since it takes literally forever to charge him back up because of his dookie booty cooldown time, getting him back up to max before you have another double trouble attack from Froggy and Kitty is going to be incredibly stressful. But I'm a fucking Omega Rizzler Chad, so I wasn't even Nobis. Again, this game does a really good job at introducing the threats, since both Froggy and Kitty won't activate on this night until around 2 a.m. So you have enough time to really understand how Crocco works, which I really think is wonderful game design. After completing the night, of course, we get another post-night cutscene, this time between Lorenzi and an unnamed guy. If I were to guess, this character is probably the guy that runs the entire place we're guarding. I'm just gonna call him Goof until we get an actual name confirmed. Goof gets pissed at Lorenzi for telling Thomas about the moving toys and how to deal with them, since apparently they can't be letting that get out, which makes perfect sense, honestly. However, if they can't tell the guards about what is going on and they insist on having a security guard, then what is even the point? Since without telling the security guard how not to fucking die, how do they expect to keep a security guard? It's just very weird and something isn't quite adding up here. They mentioned having to kill us, and by kill us, I'm just assuming that means let the toys kill us. So maybe these toys need to eat humans? Something like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's type shit? I don't know at the moment, but I'm hoping that it gets explained soon. Anyways, time to move on to night 4, which surely won't add another character that causes me to rip a baby hippo in half. I hate to break it to you guys, it adds another character that gives me the strength to do what I just mentioned. Kind of. That's a bit of an exaggeration, I can't lie. I actually think the threat introduced on this night is pretty cool, and thank God the devs understand video game balancing and didn't turn this new character into an RNG nightmare, which they could have very easily done. The new threat introduced on this night are the gnomes, which is basically just one character, but there's 3 gnomes fused together, which is completely disgusting, but that's pretty par for the course when it comes to these types of character designs.
So wait, fountain camera?
What the fuck is that? This game probably has some of the best I've ever seen. They're so gross and creepy. This entire game looks super awesome and I really like it. It kind of reminds me of the art style of Remnants of Tubbyland, which I also really liked the looks of. Anyways, moving on to what the gnomes actually do. And once again, I actually think this mechanic is pretty cool. They combined the mechanics of Grunkfuss from One Night at Flumpty's and Rat and Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's 3. And I think it works really well together. The gnomes will start in the middle fountain camera, and that's where they'll stay. Upon checking that camera, you'll be able to see a patience meter in the top corner, just like Grunkfuck. It'll slowly drain down throughout the night, and once it empties, the gnomes will hot bottom to your office at the speed of sound. Thankfully, you don't even have to constantly watch these guys, since when they start to run, not only do they make a super loud sound cue, but they also completely overlay your cameras, letting you know they're on their way. Once they make it to your office, you need to have your lighter already pulled out and lit. They will spawn in a random place in your office, of which there are 5 possible locations they can be. You need to hold your lighter over their face like Rat and Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's 3, and eventually they'll jump to a new spot in the office where you'll need to do it again. Do this 4 to 5 times and they'll eventually make their way back to the fountain. I just really like mechanics like this. It makes the whole experience feel more immersive and makes it feel like I'm actually defending myself. However, there may be one potential problem you can think of when it comes to this character. That being, what about the other characters? It seems like the full attack of the gnomes takes quite a chunk of time. So how are we not going to get fucking bodied whenever the gnomes attack? Well, I actually have some of the best news in the entire world. This game was made by a very benevolent dev. Whenever the gnomes go into attack mode, every single character pauses what they're doing. That even includes Crocco. This is the type of bliss we need to see in fan games more often. You're telling me that me beating this game actually comes down to skill and not just hoping that the game doesn't skull fuck me as hard as it possibly can? I love this. Please do this more. Anyways, of course the other characters' AI values increase during this night too, but as long as you're alternating who you stall between Froggy and Kitty, this night really shouldn't be a big problem. Something I also noticed on this night is why I felt the hitbox to the lantern was so weird. It's because you don't actually have to click the lantern. Just hover the lit lighter over it for a little bit and it will light. This is so much better now that I know this, so that I don't feel like I'm fucking up every single time I go to light it. Anyways, after completing the night, we of course get another post-night cutscene, and this one is really fucking cool and answers one of the questions I had last night. Once again, it takes place between Lorenzi and Goof, who I still don't know the name of. During this conversation, Goof is still super mad at Lorenzi since during the last night he went against Goof's wishes and called us to explain how to survive. During this cutscene, we learn exactly why Goof wants us to die so badly. And it's actually exactly what I expected because I'm a fucking lore god. There is a certain someone who showed up to the garden one day, and Goof isn't even sure it's from this world. Goof made a deal with this creature to feed him humans, and in return, Goof and Lorenzi get to live. So I was so fucking right. I'm just good. I'm just good. It's too easy. I'm better. I'm better! This is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's type plot, and I'm all for it. They hear a loud bang on the door. When Lorenzi asks if it's one of the toys that Goof built, Goof says it can't be since they only activate at midnight and it's currently only 11 p.m. And we know it's not Thomas either, so that means it can only be one other option. Him.
hunger can't wait much longer. Time for you two to become my meal.
Absolutely terrifying. Both Goof and Lorenzi presumably get eaten, and Thomas has no idea about it. And since the curiosity beckons darkness, Thomas of course decides to go back to work another night, despite being told not to by Lorenzi. Here we are, and this night is about to get fucking insane. So strap in. Moving on to night 5, there's not a whole lot to talk about since there's nothing new introduced and just serves to be a much harder version of night 4. However, what happens after you complete night 5 is where something interesting happens. We get a pretty cool post-night cutscene. Take a look.
Here we are. Your curiosity has gone too far. You're in complete darkness. You want answers? Well, the king is dead, but I took its form. They brought me food, but I'm still starving. Time to meet. Face to face.
And with that, we jump right into night 6. And let me tell you, this night is fucking crazy. Acting as this game's boss fight night, we only have Froggled to deal with, and he has several different attacks he can do. And 2 of them are some of the most stressful shit I've ever played through, I can't even lie. Let's start with his basic attacks that aren't terrifying. But before I really mention that, I want to talk about this fat bastard's character design. I think this is 100% the most disgusting character design I've ever seen from any FNAF game ever, and I'm not exaggerating. There's always been something about long arms that has made me super uncomfortable, and mixed with how disgusting his face looks, ew, what the fuck, dude, he is so fucking gross. Easily the coolest design I've ever seen by a long shot. Anyways, on to actually talking about his attacks, since that's probably important. Let's start with his easiest attack. Froggled will move to camera 5, just like Kitty and Froggy, except something about how he moves is that he's about 600 times faster. It's fucking ridiculous. When he gets to camera 5, he too will choose to attack either your chimney or your window, so you have to make sure you are camping camera 5 to be able to tell. Now, upon entering this attack, he can do 2 variations of it. One of the attacks is very easy, and the other is the most stressful part of this entire night by a long shot. Let's get something out of the way. During this night, you're unable to toggle your lantern, and at around 3 a.m. it will go out for the rest of the night. But thankfully, Froggle doesn't give a shit about the lantern being on or not. So, when he gets to the shed, he will do either his hand attack or what I'm going to call his head attack. His hand attack is the easier one, so that's what I'll talk about right now. One more thing this night changes is that you no longer have your lighter. Instead, it's replaced with a crucifix. Why? How? Don't ask. It's just what we're dealing with. Once Froggled starts his hand attack, you will need to pull out the crucifix and hover it over his hand. He will then very quickly move his hand to the other entrance. This can be repeated several times in incredibly quick succession, so you need to be super fast. But don't worry, this is the easiest attack. It's about to get a lot worse. The next easiest attack I'll mention is his clone attack. Once he gets to camera 5, he has the chance to start the clone attack before going to your window or chimney. Fuck, holy fuck, that scared the shit out of me. Fuck me in my rear, dude. If he does, your cameras get forcefully pulled down and he'll turn into the gnome's attack where he'll go Rat and Vinny mode. Same thing with his hands. Take out your crucifix and follow him with it until he leaves. However, once he leaves, he will immediately return to camera 5, meaning he will do his hand or face attack quickly after dealing with the clones. Now we can move on to the 2 other attacks that Froggled can do and why they're so fucking stressful. Let's start with his find him on the camera mechanic, because of course he has one of those, and yes, I want to die, thank you for asking. On the cameras, you will see the text, "Come find me." When this happens, he will obviously teleport to a random camera and you'll have to very quickly find him. I'm serious, you have little to no time to find this fat ass. And if that wasn't bad enough, once you find him, he'll teleport to another random camera. And he can do this up to 10 fucking times during this attack. It's fucking brutal. But I don't even think that that is the most challenging mechanic this guy has. No, that award goes to his head attack. Once again, he'll make it to camera 5 and decide to attack either your window or your chimney. When he does, if he chooses his face attack, he'll stick his face by the doors and you'll have to quickly close them. He'll bang on it and then at light speed show up at the other entrance. And yes, he will repeat this process several times really fucking quickly. Now, the reason why I feel like this attack is the most stressful is because of exactly how the doors work in this game. You don't just hover over them and click. That would be too easy. Instead, you need to make sure your mouse is actually touching the door, and then you have to click and drag it closed and hold it there. That's not really a big deal, but with how little time you actually have to do this, I can promise you that you will miss the door a few times, which will 100% end your run. Whoa, what the fuck? It's actually so stressful. It always had me sweating bullets, bro. I can't even lie. But if you can manage to keep your cool for long enough to deal with him, we get one more cutscene for beating the night. 6 a.m. Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of my dick!
This is the end. You've come a long way. You got what you wanted. I am a creature of darkness, tainted by blood and fear. The sun's rays will burn me to a crisp. Too juicy. Meat. I devoured the souls that came to me. I can still hear them begging for mercy. I feel their blood on my lips. And this only whets my appetite. I'm still hungry. And that means in the deep dark, where you lose yourself, I'll rip out and devour your heart. And this will be my final bite.
That was fucking awesome. Also, if you want to hear something a little less awesome and a little more retarded, directly after this, we get approximately 5 minutes of a Minecraft AMV.
What just happened?
Fuck?
What just happened?
What is this? What the fuck am I looking at? Why? I don't know. This is probably a reference to something. Five Nights at Froggy's Minecraft? I don't know. I don't know what this is, but it's 5 minutes long and it seems like a custom made song for this game. So maybe this is a remake of a Minecraft game? I don't know. You guys can tell me the lore. I have no idea. Now, you'd think after that performance we'd be done, but no. It gets worse, as there is somehow still one more night for us to complete. I have no idea what to expect, because at the time of writing this, I still haven't played it yet. But I am incredibly scared as to what it is I'm about to see, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so sorry to hype you guys up. Sunday is just a custom night, so nothing really interesting here. However, since everybody wanted me to play this game for so long, I actually managed to beat the 520 mode on my 3rd attempt because I'm just fucking Jesus. Literally, I'm God among men. I know. Worship me! Something I wasn't expecting is that there is one more thing to see after you complete the 520 mode, that being a teaser for Bloody Nights with Froggies 2. So get your hype up and then immediately let it fall to the floor because it quickly tells you that this game is never going to come up. And they literally tell you not to get your hopes up. Fantastic. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Bloody Nights with Froggies has to offer. Overall, I think this game is probably one of the most balanced FNAF fan games I have ever played. Everything feels fair while also being able to be stressful the whole time. This game holds your hand by removing as much RNG as possible, but it doesn't hold your hand so much to the point where you can't fail. And I think that's a very impressive feature to have in your games. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this game just isn't interesting enough to be worth playing? Let me know in the comments below. In my Knuckles Week at Sonic's video, I asked you guys what your favorite thing to do in FNAF post games were, and my favorite answer is this one by Doom Today, who said max modes because they like torturing themselves. And I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, if you think about it, that's what you're doing. That is what you're doing to yourself. You're gonna age by 90 years. It's like you're turning into a fucking welder. The question of this video is, what upcoming FNAF fan game of 2026 are you most excited to see release? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to these 3 talented artists for your fan art. You can submit yours in the Discord, link in the description. Thank you to all of my super fan channel members. You guys give me the money to pay Triz, who has been helping me work on all the more recent dxtrwhite videos. Thank you to everybody who bought a Romeo Skaggs plushie. I appreciate all of you. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!